If you want peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. If you're neutral in a situation of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. There's something in us that refuses to be regarded as less than human. We are created for freedom. These are some of the choice words from the life and times of Archbishop Desmond Tutu of blessed memory. To talk to us about this African international icon for freedom, peace, and equality are two gentlemen. Professor Sheriff GHALI Ibrahim, former Director, Institute of Legislative Studies, University of Abuja, and current Head of Department, Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja. Professor Ibrahim, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year, Africa.
Good. Our second guest is Professor Akin Alao, an accomplished academic researcher and professional historian, a fellow of several local and international faculties, and a published researcher. Professor Alao is of the History Department of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State. Professor Alao, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me on this program, and Happy New Year to have you all over Africa.
All right, so I'm going to start with you, Professor Ibrahim. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was he to Africa and what have we lost in his passing?
Well, Desmond Impilo Tutu was a teacher. You know, he's been teaching, you know, in South Africa as well as other places. Then apart from this, a freedom fighter who fought for the liberation of South Africa, as well as believed in the Pan-Africanist spirit, you know, in order to decolonize and make sure that Africa, the entire continent of Africa, was actually liberated. Then apart from this, we should also know that Desmond Tutu was a true godly man. And apart from this, a freedom fighter. Apart from this, a man who believed in democracy, social justice, equality, and the rest of them. You know, ultimately, Desmond Tutu was actually a man of great hope, because he never tried to give up, because when his family moved to Johannesburg, he contracted tuberculosis. And when he was cured, he remained so resolute, you know, making sure that he continued in the fight of that particular disease. That is why he decided to join a medical school, which he did, of course. But, you know, along the way, the tuition fee could not be paid for him. That is why he had to leave, and subsequently had to go back to university in order to study education. So Desmond Tutu was a man who saw humanity even among his adversaries. You know, he tried to actually delve into the issue of peace as well as non-violence. And he, in one of his speeches, he asserted that, look, development cannot be achieved without forgiveness. Forgiveness in the sense that we must forgive each other, one another, before we realize, you know, the essence of human existence. Why? Because there is no way you have actually hurt or wronged me, and I continue to nurse and develop such grudges. So Desmond Tutu believed in the spirit of forgiveness in order to achieve continuity and development. And that is why immediately after the release of Mandela, when Mandela was actually elected the first black president in South Africa, Desmond Tutu was actually brought on board, you know, to actually chair the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, you know, between the white settlers, you know, in South Africa, as well as the blacks. Not only, you know, in the interracial commitment of the people of South Africa, even among the black rival factions of South Africa. Desmond Tutu was actually important, very significant in uniting those factions.
All right, that's wow. I would only say, wow, what a figure. Professor Alao, what's your take, and what are the lessons you think we can learn from such an incredible African?
Well, the death of Archbishop Desmond Tutu is a great loss to Africa, in the sense that the Archbishop left at the time, that Africa would have benefited immensely from his personality and legacies. He was born on October 10, 1931, and died just this year, last year, 2021, at the age of 90 years. He came from an underprivileged home, but he surmounted this and became a voice for his people in South Africa. He was a stringent voice against the apartheid regime, and he was able to rise to the position of being the spiritual father and conscience of the new nation. Above all, Desmond Tutu was a statesman in the strict sense of the word. He was able to bring the society and the nation of South Africa together as one, especially after the obnoxious policy of apartheid was abolished. The legacy of Desmond Tutu will be seen in what the last speaker said about his work on forgiveness. In 2014, he jointly produced a book and published it as the fourfold path to forgiving in South Africa. And he went on to say clearly that there's nothing that cannot be forgiven, and that there's no one undeserving of forgiveness. And this will be his philosophy, and this guided his actions for a long period of time. And I think it was as a result of his work at the Peace and Reconciliation Commission. Desmond Tutu left a legacy of emphasizing the essence of forgiveness and the role of
all right, sir, I think we have...
Okay. The religion of the ideology that was against oppression and colonialism. But Desmond Tutu adopted the Ubuntu ideology combined with his humanity.
All right, so Professor Ibrahim, sorry, I think we've lost Professor Alao due to network issues over there. Coming back to Desmond Tutu and the great figure and leader that he was that traversed both clergy and normal society, what do you think happened? There seemed to be a disconnect between one generation of African leaders who were very Africa-centric. They were interested in their people, they were progressive, they were, you know, pushing for all of that. And suddenly we have a generation of Africa, which is evident by the level of poverty and retrogression Africa is in, that seem to be more centered on themselves. What can we do to take the virtues of a man like Desmond Tutu and put that in our political systems so that we can have this great benefit?
Desmond Tutu has been a rare, a kind of a religious man, as well as a kind of a distinguished personality, not only in South Africa, not only in Africa, but in the entire world. Why? Because you hardly see a man, of this particular humanist passion. Apart from this particular humanist passion, a man who was not guided by any sense of religion or identity or anything, but rather rationality as well as that particular God-fearing that he actually pursued. Why did I say this? Because if you look at, even though he was a little bit controversial, and why people saw this controversy, it was because of his straightforwardness, as well as that particular remover. He was devoid of all these particular biases as well as personal idiosyncrasies. That is why we began to see this particular controversy in him. Why? Being a theologian, a man of God, a kind of Archbishop Emeritus, like Desmond Tutu, you get the point, to support the Palestinian cause. You get the point. Going to Gaza to carry out campaigns. So even though, on the other side, he supported the freedom of the of Israel to exist, but also the freedom of the Palestinians should also be actually recognized. So this is one. Then another issue is the I mean, the absolute support for human rights, Desmond Tutu reached to the level of going even against the African culture. What was that? To even support the right of the gays, the gay right. So that is why I say, you know, he was a little bit controversial.
He was quite straightforward.
Yeah, he was quite
something.
Of course,
he
of course,
went
of
after
course.
it regardless of the
That is
consequences.
correct. Then another issue was the bearing between politics, religion, and international relations.
Yeah.
Why? Because he criticized quite a number of South African leaders,
Yes.
such as Thabo Mbeki,
Yes.
Jacob Zuma,
Yeah.
you know, and the rest of them. Why? There was a time in which visa was actually being denied for Dalai Lama from Tibet, China, to come to South Africa.
yeah.
So why was that? Because if you look at the political international relation, you know, terrain, South Africa was a friend of China, has been a friend of China,
yes.
and that China has a great influence, you know, over South Africa.
Yeah.
So China has not been actually in good terms with nations and states which have been accepting Dalai Lama or even inviting him to come. So the president of South Africa were advertently, you know, cautious, you know, to receive Dalai Lama. So in this, but Desmond Tutu saw that as a negation of the fundamental right, you know, of a man as well as religion. If he had come to South Africa, they would have shared. But I mean, the issue was that the government of South Africa shouldn't have denied him that particular visa
at that time.
Yes, of course.
And speaking of visas, Desmond Tutu himself also had his visa seized at some point in time when he was fighting apartheid.
Yes.
Professor Alao is back with us. Professor Alao, I'm asking, we see the virtues of this great African. What can we do to transfer these great virtues to the successor generation? So we have a successor generation that is African-centric, that is humanistic, and can take Africa to where we need to go. Oh, I think Professor, I think his network, the network is off. But if he comes in again, just let's put him through straight away so that we don't get to lose him. So I was saying the same question I was asking. He was such an incredible. Okay, Professor Alao, you back?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. Sorry, the network has been a little crazy. So I was saying, what can we do to transfer such great values of men like Archbishop Desmond Tutu to the African successor generation so that we can have an Africa-centric successor generation that is interested in moving Africa forward to a place of pride among the nations?
Well, there seems to be no doubt that we have a generation of Africans who are committed to the struggle in Africa and for the emancipation of Africa. What is required is for the right moment for them to emerge.
Okay.
For every generation, there is always a party to lead. But we need to create the right atmosphere for the emergence of this new party to emerge and for them to provide leadership for the masses. Again, we also must look at the question of our attitude, our faith, and our commitment to humanism. What is guiding us? What is the ideology that is guiding us as human beings? To what are we committed as human beings? In the life of Desmond Tutu, we could see those articles of faith that guided its activities as an apartheid, as in the struggle against apartheid, that guided its attitude as a reverend gentleman, that guided his attitude as the conscience of the nation. We must go back to these right values that will move the society in Africa forward. That's the lesson that we can draw from the life and times of Desmond Tutu. The new generation of Africans must imbibe the culture of developing themselves into statesmen and stateswomen for a new Africa to emerge. And I think we also need to look at our commitment to humanism above the limitations of race. Desmond Tutu was committed to humanism. He did not see the world from the prism of race. He saw humanity as one, and he made his contributions in that direction, to the extent that he was recognized, even by those who are not of his color. And that's one thing that we must learn from his life. We also must look at his capacity to listen and to act in support of those who are oppressed. He came from an underprivileged society and home, but he was able to overcome this limitation. And he became the conscience of the people, and he was ready to listen to them and to provide that lift for anybody under oppression. He served as a spiritual leader of his own people, and his people accepted him and recognized him as such, to the extent that he provided effective leadership to mobilize his people in the right direction. These are some of the things that he did in order to marry the two sides of democracy. He was not just an advocate of democracy, he was also an advocate of a democracy predicated on social and economic justice. He was there for his people, and he was able to bring the two together in a situation that will lift the toiling masses up for advancement in their society.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask, because as we're running out of time. Now, one of the things he symbolized was his great capacity for religion as a tool for personal and national transformation. He allowed the fear of God, and he allowed the morality and his love for mankind become a part of him. He believed what he taught, and that shone through his life. Like we said, it became a thing of controversy. He would say what was right regardless of whether it was a black man in government or it was a white man in government. How can we take this lesson from this man and make it an African thing? Because part of a lot of the problems across Africa is we are always creating new divides. It's Hutsi, it's Tutsi, it's North, it's South, it's East, it's West. How can we take these values and make it something that Africans can imbibe so we can have a better society?
The first thing we need to do, Reward, is we need to eulogize, Desmond Tutu. And apart from this, we need to actually set aside a particular day dedicated annually for Desmond Tutu. And let that particular day be celebrated all over Africa, which will actually extend, to other parts of the world. Then apart from this, Tutu himself, before his death, he actually compiled his speeches in a volume. So we can actually make students, from primary to university level to study the teachings, thought, and philosophy of Desmond Tutu. In this, you're going to be building leaders who will actually have that particular semblance with Desmond Tutu, because this particular legacy will actually continue to be passed among generations, upon generations in Africa. And in fact, look at, because of that particular humanist spirit in Desmond Tutu, he called together, or alongside with Winnie Mandela, for the international community to impose an embargo or a kind of economic boycott of South Africa, which led to the arrest, as also reprimanded of Desmond Tutu, himself. So these are some of the things that, regardless, he called for international economic boycott of South Africa. Why? It was his own country. But why? Because there was an apartheid regime in South Africa which did not respect, the human right, which did not respect actually the people of South Africa, and he called for this, against his own country, just for things to be well for the people. So these are the kind of things we want African leaders to actually emulate.
I like the way you put it, and I think it's in a way only a professor can put it, quite simple, straightforward, step by step. Eulogize the man, let more people get to know about him, let his works and writings be taught in school so that more people can imbibe his philosophies. Professor Alao, I'm going to ask now, what's your view on what we can do to ensure we breed a generation of Africans more like this? What are the practical things we need to do?
Yeah, thank you. Desmond Tutu was guided by an ideology he helped to promote. And that ideology is Ubuntu. I am because we are. And I think we should do our best, like the Prof said, take this back to the classrooms, bring it down, and accept it as a sum total of values necessary for nation building, for peace building, and for justice in our societies. If you are guided by ideologies, and if you are able to commit ourselves to these ideologies, nationalist leaders like Desmond Tutu will emerge and lead the struggle for a better Africa. And I think that's what we can take away from him. The other thing we can also take away from him is his commitment to forgiving we have a lot of hurt in all our societies. We have political disagreements, we have all forms of violence. If we're able to understudy his voice in forgiving others, I think we'd move our societies forward better than we are doing now.
All right,
For him, forgiveness is the gift that we give ourselves. We need to give ourselves this gift of forgiveness.
Thank you very much, Professor Alao. Thank you for joining us on the show. Professor Ibrahim, it's been a pleasure having you. We hope we'll see you again. We've been talking about the life and times of the wonderful African and international statesman and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. All right, I will just run through our social media handles now. Wow, a lot of people have sent in a lot of messages, and I don't even know where to begin. Most of them are saying Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. All right, Edwin Omorogbe from Benin, Happy New Year to you. Thank you. Well, this is all there. For all of you who sent in your various social media, Happy New Year to all of you. We wish you a very, very, very wonderful new year. We pray that all will be well with you in this new year that we have come in to enjoy. From the producer, the director, the camera, the crewmen, everybody here saying Happy New Year. See you next time.